Honorable Prime Minister, recognize you.
Madam Speaker, honorable members, I've listened to the debate on the television with great interest. And I've heard Senator Bruce here since I came back to the House. Mr. Speaker, it is evident to me thus far that the opposition has missed the guiding hand of the Honorable Arnim Eustace. What I heard thus far from the principal speakers on the opposition side has been very underwhelming, and a lot of contradictions and confusion and a lack of understanding of reality and an elemental disregard of what the budget says this year, last year, and as though they're completely oblivious to what has happened last year from March the 11th onwards. They say they recognize it, but it's as though they go to the church and they see the statues and they do a genuflection before them. But it doesn't really mean anything. First of all, Madam Speaker, if you look at the approved estimates for 2020, you would see that the approved estimates of expenditure showed $2 million or thereabout less than the approved estimates for current revenue, which means that on the face of it, there was a surplus budgeted last year. Then COVID came. We had a budget, a supplementary budget in April the 7th. Then what happened? The estimates had to be revised. Expenditure increased to $709.3 million from $678. And revenue, current revenue, was revised downwards from the approved estimate of 680 to 605 by some $75 million. It meant, therefore, the estimates plus the approved estimates plus the supplementaries had you a deficit on the current account budgeted at about $100 million. But we had made the point that there are items in the approved estimates which we will not spend, and that they were reallocated into the supplementaries, so that even though the revenues were reduced, in the actual implementation of the approved, of the revised estimates, you will have a better fit so that you would not end up with $100 million in the deficit. Last year, on the current account, last year, we had a decline, depending on who you take it from. Whether you take it from IMF or our own persons, of just under 5% decline, contraction in the economy, or whether you take it from the ECCB, which is about contraction of 3%, because of the way in which we managed the COVID pandemic last year and managed the economy, our revenue numbers remain basically stable in relation to 2019. And that where we spent more, we made up for it with grants and soft loans to help to carry us through. In 2021, it is explained that this would be a difficult year. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, the first 3 months of last year, our revenues increased by 9.5%. Because we had a very good first 3 months in tourism. For instance, in the first 3 months of last year, 100,000 cruise ship passengers came to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Land-based tourism and yachting tourism, they were fairly buoyant. And then you began to have sharp declines everywhere in the region. But in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the decline in terms of revenues was far less than in every other country in CARICOM, save and except Guyana. And Guyana is a new rich oil country on the move. And that the contraction of the economy was far less than in every other place, save and except Guyana. Madam Speaker, while our revenues held, it's because it went up by 9.5% in the first quarter. In April, our revenues fell by 20%. It began to be stabilized in June, in July, increase in August, a little in September, and so on. It went like a yo-yo. And there are two reasons we're responsible for this. One, we didn't lock down, as the opposition was urging. Lock it down tight like a drum. They must be embarrassed by the speeches they made on April the 7th. Draconian Chinese methods they urged. You know, Madam Speaker. And the second reason is that our economy is more diversified and less dependent on tourism, although as a percentage of GDP, tourism is about 22%, 21, 22%, and employment about 23%, compared, of course, to Antigua, which is about 50 in both categories, and St. Lucia. Bahamas is even higher. And Barbados with that plus tourism, plus international finance in Barbados. That's what they depend upon. And of course, they've had a challenge with international finance. And whereas our revenues remained basically stable, our expenditure increased significantly. The recurrent expenditure increased by about 6-7%. I don't have the final number at my hand here. And the capital expenditure by about a number around 50%. When the numbers are all finally in, it would more than likely be more than 50%, resulting clearly in a deficit on the current account. But a deficit on the current account in the number $30-something million, not the 100, which would have been on the face of it in the revised estimates of revenue and expenditure. Because of the way we managed on the fiscal side, and the way we managed on the COVID side, and the way we managed on the macroeconomic side. For instance, when the farmers had a problem, the Minister of Agriculture responded with Saboto's Love Box. Buying from farmers at all depots across this country and distributed it. By the way, Boris Johnson tried to imitate Saboto, you know. You had Boris Love Box, except to say it's 40 pounds sterling for it, and a journalist went and bought it in the supermarket. The contents were under 3 pounds. A big monopoly capitalist company made the money. All the money was made here and stayed here with the farmers. And then what's happening around us? Revenues fell in 2020 in the other countries of the OECS, ranging between 9 and 25% declines. And real GDP, the real economy, while it contracted here anywhere between 3 and 5%, in the other places, it contracted in double digits, and in some cases in high double digits. That is the backdrop. In this first 3 months, we are not going to have a bumper 3 months like last year. And that is why, relative to last year, in relation to the approved estimates, as the Minister of Finance pointed out, we are nearly 30-something million dollars down. You see the numbers. 680 compared to now 647. I'm using the broad numbers. Now, having set that backdrop, and all around us we see the declines in the great United States, in Britain, in Europe generally. And this year, we had to tailor our expenditure to suit where we are, including a lot of expenditure on social protection. We had to do it also for vaccines, health-related matters. By the way, Mr. Speaker, if I may just say this, I heard the Honourable Member for East Kingston scoffing at 9% of the government revenue, recurrent revenue going on health, and that's a paltry sum. Go and look it up. 9% for developing countries, including middle and upper middle developing countries, is not only a commendable percentage, but it is in the higher ranks. You know, I wasn't coming back here, you know. But I said that if I had heard imaginative embellishments on facts, text and context of a prejudicial, adverse, or derogatory kind or nature to the interests of the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I will return. And return I have. Put in my marker down. The Honorable Leader of the Opposition tried to have it both ways. He bemoans the size of the deficit on the current account, which is at 50 million or thereabouts. But yet, wants more spending. But he comes down finally on the old thorny ground of austerity, though he doesn't use the word. Well, for us, austerity is a wrong and dangerous initiative. Wrong and dangerous in our country, austerity. Generally and in our country, we are going with prudence and enterprise. And we have to do things which are enterprising. The Honorable Member for East Kingston says he's the only economist in the building, in the parliament. Well, wait. I don't know if that was the member for Central Kingston. That's the member for Central Kingston. No. One of the things, Madam Speaker, to be at least a half-decent economist, you have to know arithmetic. Let us look at his arithmetic. He bemoans the deficit. Of course, he wrongly puts amortization and sinking fund contribution in current expenditure. It's not in current expenditure. It's a separate and distinct matter. Because they relate, it's like you tell me when you pay for your house, you pay the mortgage, that's a current expenditure. It has to come out of what you earn. But you have an asset called a house. You don't just pay the money and it disappears. It creates value. Everybody on the street knows that. Only a great economist doesn't realize that. But despite the fact he bemoans the deficit, he says I want to see more expenditure. The expenditures are already too large, you know, but he wants more. I listened to him, the Honorable Member for East Kingston. He says, the 9% on health is too low. He didn't tell us how much more on health he wants. Though as we see, significant monies have been applied in the right places in the budget on health, including and especially with COVID and primary health care. He also, Madam Speaker, says you have to put more money to sports. Well, the budget, what you see there for sports is not the only amount of money you see for sports. The National Lottery, which when we arrived here had under $9 million in revenue. The last budget, the last year, the account showed they had over $80 million in revenue. It is true that what remains of that is about 20% to pay for the staff, to pay for the runners, and to pay for money for physical facilities and other sporting initiatives. In the same way, the capital budget here of 317 is not the only money to be budgeted for capital spending. National Properties has a big number. Vinlec has a big number. CWSA has a big number. The Port Authority, I'm not talking about the port project, the Port Authority, the Honorable Minister for Ports this morning or this afternoon told you that equipment alone, they're buying $4 million more in equipment. That's investment to make the port more efficient. The Water Authority, between 2001 and 2006, increased through their investment water supply by 33%. And since 2006, by a further 30-something%. That's why you have households, which in 2001, when we arrived, had just under 70% of the households having pipe-borne water in homes. But at that time, you had under 30,000 households. Now you have 40-something thousand households, and 98% of them have pipe-borne water. That's where investment takes place, and in solid waste. So, Vinlec, the expansion which they are doing, the minister today spoke about the expansion at Kane Hall. They had major expansion in solar energy, while we still make the explorations to see if you can use new technologies to take up on the geothermal initiative. The minister says, the Honourable Member for East Kingston says that a paltry 2-point-something% for foreign affairs and foreign trade. But that paltry 2%, and you say you need an imaginative foreign policy. He must have a conscience. He was a diplomat. We made him, this government made him. The man who is talking here made him the #2 man at the embassy in Washington. And he knew the new directions in foreign policy.
Point of order. The Honorable Prime Minister is misleading the House. When I was appointed as the #2 man in Washington, it was under the NDP's administration.
Well, I kept you there. I kept you there.
You didn't keep me there. Not you.
I didn't keep you there?
No, not you.
Who kept you there?
I kept myself there because I serve the people of this country well.
Oh, come on, come on. Those posts are in the remit of the Prime Minister, you know that. You know that. And when you're going to Suriname, no, but you raise it, and when you go into Suriname, I say yes. I'm not wasting my time. I am just saying to you that you knew the difference in the foreign policy. And is this... No, but I have to say it because You see, you can't personalize it and then seek to depersonalize it. You say you know this estimate inside out because you were a senior project officer. And you said, well, when you come on foreign policy, I have that expertise because I was the deputy in Washington and I held posts elsewhere. So I'm saying that because of your personal involvement, not to take credit for it, that you will know the difference in the foreign policies. And you told me that too. You're on the different side now, but you don't have to. You don't have to go there, man. You know, you don't have to go there. I heard it, I said, no, I have to come and make a corrective, man. You have to. And then he says, $100 million should be given to businesses. Doesn't say where it's coming from. In all of these grand numbers, you said nothing. You said slogans. You issued some sophomoric slogans which may impress some, but which would not impress discriminating people. Not my interpretation, that anybody with an ounce of reflection. You did not identify anything. You did not identify anything. You didn't say where you will create one single job. Oh, technology, new managerial system. I listen to you carefully, you know. I sat down in the chair and closed my eyes. I said, well, let me hear what is happening. Let me hear what Fitzbramble is going to say. And when I was finished listening to you, I came to the conclusion, if this is the basis of your understanding of economics and the estimates, it's a species of OBI economics where the arithmetic don't add up. It's as though, you know, you are to economics what the Nigerian pastor in England is to theology. You know, I'm not keeping trying. The runs that I have made, put up on the tins, you could never get to meet them. No. I know when I have to listen, but I have to come and say that. I don't want to talk about your record. Don't get me there. I didn't talk about it in the election, and don't get me there. I don't want to talk about it. Don't get me there. I ain't going there either. No. Basic arithmetic, you didn't get it right in terms of the numbers. You misinterpret so many things in the estimates. And if you're coming with these grand expenditure plans, for heaven's sake, tell us where the revenue is coming from. We tell you where the revenue is coming from, you know. We have pages. We have a summary of capital receipts, and we have, for current revenue, we have pages from page 1 to page 11, ministry by ministry. And then the Honorable Leader of the Opposition. You know, you come with that every year, and you're predicting for 20 years. You're predicting for 20 years. You're predicting for every year that the government and the budget will collapse, and it's still. It's all right. No, well, it's we put down how we are financing our budget. And Madam Speaker, I heard the Leader of the Opposition. His major contribution today was a feigned, it was an actor's performance of. You can't even find the word, you're just making it up. I'm not making it up. I don't want to say anything which would lower your esteem. No, words don't fail me. It is an actor's performance.
Yes, but you have to come back.
It is.
You have to come back to answer, didn't you?
It is because you are engaged. You are engaged.
We made you come back.
You made me come back because you are involved in a number of infelicities, a number of infacilities, and I told you the condition under which I will come back. And you are involved in a set of imaginative embellishments, because I don't want, Madam Speaker, I don't want to say anything where you will pull me up, because I will not say that the Honorable Leader of the Opposition told a number of whoppers. I wouldn't say that. But he came here and he feigned, the people have me here for 20 years and for another 5 years, leading the country, and you watching me for all of those years. You will watch me for... we have a system. We have a system. You had 7 people. You had 7 representatives last time, and now you have 6. You hear me? Because there were 15 separate elections on election day. You know you're talking nonsense. You have a sliver because of the Grenadines. A sliver because of the Grenadines. That's all you have. A sliver. A sliver.
You got 63 votes, give you 2 seats.
I've what?
63 votes. That's the difference between your government and you. You got 1 in our favor and 62 in.
Oh, that's how you count it.
No, but that is what it is.
It's all right. It's all right. Go ahead, count it that way.
If you're talking majority,
that is all right. Count it that way. Count it that way. Count it that way.
You deal with that.
Honorable Prime Minister, please continue.
As far as I know, choke me. As far as I know, I am the Prime Minister of St. Vincent. You are the leader of the opposition. You hear me? And you are debating our estimates. People's choice way. You are the choice of some people who's selling. You want to sell the patrimony of this country with passports. Yes, and I'm saying it again. You want to sell the soul of this nation. You will never be able to do it so long as Ralph Gonsalves is alive. Never. And the ULP exists. Never. They voted for you, and why am I here? And why am I here? You know? No. And you will get licks again. Licks again. Of course there are people who will vote for you. Of course there are people who would vote for you. Never choke me. Madam Speaker. So there was, he came with an actor's demeanor, and now and again feign a kind of pain about this or that, entirely contrived. I'm saying, okay, well, let me hear the profound proposal, you know, from Cambridge Analytica, because really what you showed in the election is the question of, you know, they have you as a good ventriloquist, or is a ventriloquist relationship. 2 proposals he came with. I want everybody to know. He will close the schools for a long time, because he said turn the schools into places to put the COVID patients. That's what he said. Well, the thing is so wholly impractical. He doesn't know the extent of the universe of the numbers. People who don't have houses to stay in, people who don't have friends or houses to stay in. We have rented a 25-room guest house and another one recently with 5 rooms. And if we need to release them, I've been advised for 6 months in the first instance. If we need to get another one, because there are many guest houses being built, and we will get back to the schools. That's the first one. It is an absolute nonsensical proposal. The second one, ban international flights. Well, Madam Speaker, the only one international air carrier that comes currently to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and that's American, twice a week. You want us to cut off the only connection we have with North America, where our nationals are, the bulk of them, where it is a major source market for tourists. We have to keep that link going. But it is so silly in the current circumstances. The absurdity of it. It is silly. Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. You don't put words in my mouth. Let me tell you why it is so silly. The persons who are here, the persons here who are going to America or coming from America here, they have to go through Barbados. They will go through Barbados. And when Barbados, in order to go through Barbados, you need to have a PCR test. It costs a lot of money. To go to the United States, no. And President Biden and the CDC, they have made the rules. You don't need a PCR test. You can get a rapid antigen test, which is much cheaper. So that all you are doing, if you ban the flights, the international flights, people will simply go through Barbados at greater expense and inconvenience. I did not say that. I did not say that. You quoting Kenton Chance as an authority? Here where you reach now. I made the point.
Honorable Prime
I
Minister,
did not say it. I am not retracting. Look at the tape. Listen to the tape. I was discussing where people are talking about what I should have done. What I should have done. And I said, hindsight is 20/20 vision. You should have banned. You should have not had what you call it there, 9 mornings. And I proceeded to debunk both of those things. If I wanted to say we or I would have used the personal pronoun I. You want to tell me, like Kenton, you don't understand simple English language?
Prime Minister, you have 10 minutes remaining.
Well, okay, you go ahead. You go ahead and believe that. I am telling you, if you maintain that, you are misrepresenting me. You know that. And if you do that, you're dishonest. You are absolutely dishonest if you insist on that, because that is not what I said. No. I remember fully what I said, and the tape has been played, and the plain language is there. Look at where you all reach now. Look at where you all reach now. But you're not going to detract me from the fact that you spoke for 45 minutes. 45 minutes. And you made 2 ridiculous proposals after trying to be an amateur thespian. An amateur thespian. For those who don't understand personal pronouns, I'll spell thespian, Thespian, an actor. I ain't saying it for you, I'm saying for those who you're quoting. No, we are in difficult times, challenging times. And rather than you come here, you just lost the election. Be responsible now. Be responsible. Be responsible. But no, you come with a lot of foolishness. That's why I tell my guys, and gals, I tell my team, don't for one moment think that you all are interested in anything national. You are interested in power and status and position and the NDP. And you are prepared to sell the birthright of this country for it, including citizenship and passport. Including citizenship and passport. Well, if you think you can block road against the comrade, try that. Try that. You try that. You try that. That was a people's protest. You are acting as a surrogate. You are acting for a surrogate for the people who are behind Donald Trump, Cambridge Analytica. The opposition in this country is an absolute disgrace, and it is shown in the case of the presentation you all made here today. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
For the debate.